Lastly, I think this is my last resources slide, but basically we're coming at it that we have now $15,000 in savings, and we're facing a decision, do we want to get part-time jobs, or do we want to pursue this goal of being full-time farmers? For the last 5 years, we've been full-time farmers, but it's something that you have to weigh out in terms of your finances, and we're full-time farmers. That's what we want to do, but it might not work for a different family. We are having a willingness to risk some money. We do have willingness to borrow some money, but it's certainly not simple to borrow money for a farm operation, especially when you're small scale like we are. We don't qualify for conventional loans. We do qualify for some farm loans through conventional banks, but the interest rate's extremely high. And there is a new and beginning farm loan program through the Farm Bill, but it's an extremely long process, like 6 months or more, and you have to have a willing seller who will wait for that long. And so it's not that easy of a process to go through. Right now we're debt-free, and we choose to be. We live very simply, and we don't have much overhead. We don't have kids, and don't have a TV, and we like to dumpster dive and things like that. So we live very simply, and so part of that financial resources is being able to be fiscally conservative, I suppose. But again, 5 to 10 acres in our part of the world is really expensive. It's not priced for agricultural use. We're talking $15,000 to $20,000 an acre at least. And so when it comes to buying property, we know that we're going to have to go into debt. I put health care down here as well. It's just because it's a sort of a limiting resource. We don't qualify for Idaho Medicaid, since Idaho is one of the states that didn't expand their Medicaid, and we don't make enough to qualify for federal subsidies in the new Affordable Health Care Act. So we are part of the small-scale farmers that are falling through the gaps in terms of access to health care. We don't have any access right now. So that's one of the issues that we think about often. Next. Sorry for the delay. Lessons learned over the last few years, definitely, again, just dream, think, plan, dream again, and then do it. If you're going to be leasing land, I can't tell you enough, please just get a long-term lease, like 10 or more years if you can, or just be very prepared to be able to move at the drop of a hat. But if you can, there's great resources out there for lease arrangements. And I would urge everybody to start small with intention and with integrity. Do what you want to do, but do it well. Next. I wanted to talk a little bit about land use agreements, and maybe we can cover this a little bit more in another webinar, but basically when you're talking about land use agreements, you want to think about leasing or not leasing, purchasing or not purchasing, and maybe you purchase a couple acres and then you lease another 30. There's hybrid arrangements also, but the first and foremost is to get it in writing first. Handshakes are great, and we always want to think about the best in everybody, but you can get a handshake second. Just get it in writing first. Legalize it, notarize it, do whatever you have to do to it, but get it in writing. There's many different online resources, and the Equity Trust is one that I've used often over the course of the last couple of years, and they have a really good MOU, or Memorandum of Understanding, that I believe we put up on the Moodle site. And the next slide kind of details a little bit of it, but basically it's a sheet that you can sit down with a potential landowner, and you can go through all of these issues that might come up. If you have a chance to look at this MOU, I would really encourage it, because it goes over tillage and weed and pest control and demeanor, like what are your expectations with noise and number of people using the land and who's going to pay for it and who owns it at the end and who's going to pay for the pump when it breaks and all this stuff. So if you can get everybody on the same page, then you can look through those issues before they come up. And you can go to the next slide, Cinda. The last couple slides are just things, are pieces of ground that we're looking at, and I wanted to kind of take you through our thought processes with them really briefly. This particular ground is in Salmon, and you know, I look at that barn and I'm like, oh, look at that beautiful barn. It's 2 stories tall. It's huge. It's this historical barn. Look at all the stuff you could put in it. And it sits on 10 acres and it has pretty good water right to it. Great sun exposure. It's fenced and it's like $400,000. I mean, it's really way overpriced. So it's not a reality for us, but we look at this property and those are some of the resources that stick out immediately for us. But then again, the barn is falling apart. It's you can barely walk in it. It's so full of manure, and the foundation is cracked. So there's some issues. But if you're looking at land, if you're looking at your own land, start making those resource lists because they're so important. And you might realize that you have more than you think, or that you need some other things on the farm before you get started. Next. This next piece of ground in the next slide is actually some ground that we have been offered. There's several landowners who own it and a couple other people that they have caretake it who actually live on the property. It's 240 acres, and they're willing to let us lease a small section of it. The part that they want us to grow on is 3 acres of land that used to be the dump site for the farm back in the 1800s and on. So it's had all sorts of things dumped on it, and you know, it's kind of a catch-22. They have all this land, but we're kind of given the back corner. And it's hard to work with multiple landowners. It's something that you need to think about if you're looking at leasing ground from somebody. They do have some goats on the property, which would be an issue, but that's also a great source of goat manure, an on-farm source for really great manure. And they do have some outbuildings and great irrigation water. And the last slide is another piece of ground that we're looking at that has some really great sun exposure. It's south-facing, and it has great water rights off of a ditch and off of a well. It's 60 acres and has 2 outbuildings and an old homestead. But the old homestead, you can see in the upper left corner, is totally unusable. It has tree falling on it, and I think it's been there since the early 1900s, but it's kind of just needs to be torn down. But like Melissa was saying, each property has sort of elements of good and bad, and I think the more we can look at our resources as tools, even if they seem that they might be limiting, everything is a tool, and we can use them to help move our farm goals forward. I think that's about all I have, but I definitely wanted to reiterate that you know, what we are doing here through sustainable food production, whether it's animals or vegetables, it's fun. It should be a life-changing experience for everybody, and it's really very challenging, but it's so rewarding. And I hope that if you find that you're running into some challenges, that you use us as a resource, because without each other, without networking with each other, I don't think anybody's going to get very far. So yeah, that's what I think I'll end on. But I thank everybody and can pass it back to Cinda and Colette.
Great, this is Colette, and Cinda, if you can just advance the slides. I just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping and go over where we are with readings and assignments. So Cinda, next. So on the course website, hopefully you've posted an introduction and know that you can use the discussion forum for questions and comments and to get to know each other better. And hopefully that you've been able to access some of the week 1 readings and the assignments and are working on week 2 readings. Week 1 does have an upload for an assignment. If you're having any challenges with that, please let me know. And it is time to be looking at beginning week 2 assignments. Next slide. We do know that we have a holiday coming up. So next slide, Cinda. So I wanted to make sure that you all know that there's a survey after each webinar. Please take a few minutes to complete it. It's really helpful if you do that because your feedback really helps us improve each presentation and look into running the course better next time we offer it. We have figured out how to post the webinars to the course Moodle website. Right now they're broken down into segments and posted on YouTube. I'm also looking at options to post a QuickTime movie which has the whole webinar as one file that you would click on and open. Right now there is a QuickTime movie under week 1 with the week 1 webinar. Please be patient if you try to open it because it does take a little while to open because the file is so large, but you are actually viewing it off of the website and not having to download it onto your own computers. Tomorrow by noon, week 2 webinar will be posted. Already the assignments are listed in the week 2 aspect of the course website. On Friday, the week 3 readings are going to be posted and the assignments related to week 3, and you'll also get the registration for the week 3 webinar. But we're taking next week off from viewing the webinar, and our week 3 webinar will actually be on December 3rd. And for those of you who are exploring the course website, there is a course calendar, and it shows the breaks that we're taking in terms of the webinar and shows the exact dates of what we call each week. So you do have next week to catch up a little bit, and we do have a couple of participants who are still waiting for some books that are on back order, and those should go out this week. So we hope you have a great Thanksgiving holiday. Please email me if anything comes up over the holiday. I will be checking my email and would love to help you out, and we will talk to you again on December 3rd. Thank you all and have a great night.